Hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Ok Xoomer. This is our first one of 2022. I'm your host, Aaron Lichtig, Xometry guy and former Jeopardy champion. And I'm here today with Kristin Mulherin. Now, she recently joined Nexa 3D as a general manager. And she is also the new president of Women in 3D Printing, which has become a very well-known and important organization within our industry. So Kristin, welcome. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's great to be here.
So first of all, how did you get started in 3D printing?
Oh gosh, so I got started in 3D printing several years ago. I had been working for a company. It was a startup and it was advanced materials. My background's in material science, and so I led up the commercial side of this advanced materials startup. From there, I had moved to the UK to set up the European office, and my information had gotten around out there. And then ultimately, we actually moved back to Oregon, or to Oregon. And I got a call one day just from a recruiter and said, "Hey, would you be interested in moving back to the UK?" And it was for a role with LPW. So LPW was bought by Carpenter back a few years ago. And is now called Carpenter Additive, but at the time it was called LPW, and it was in just outside Manchester in the UK. And it being metals, based on solely for metals for additive manufacturing, my background in advanced materials really was applicable. And it was kind of around the same size company as well. So I made that leap and moved back to the UK to become their chief commercial officer. And really, honestly, I tell this to a lot of people, it was, by the time I got out there, it was October, and November, I went to Formnext, my very first Formnext. And I knew that, immediately that this was the industry that I was going to stay in. And I think a lot of people have that same reaction. It's, it was very clear. I mean, it's an exciting industry. It was really fast growing. It still is fast growing, obviously. And not to mention just fascinating in general. So I've been in AM ever since, and I can't imagine ever leaving. So someone told me the other day that they knew someone who had left. I thought, that's insane. Who leaves this industry? You kind of get stuck. I think a lot of people recognize that.
Did they go from 3D printing to 2D printing back to that?
That would be massively disappointing, wouldn't it?
So what excites you most about where 3D printing is headed?
Oh gosh, it's very, there's so many things, I guess, is why I stumble with my words. We're at the very beginning of something that's going to be significant in society and significant in manufacturing and significant on a global basis. And we're still relatively at the beginning of all of that. To me, I can't think of anything more exciting. My background and my interest lies in startups and fast growing ventures and innovation. And I did engineering for all those kinds of reasons as well. And to me, it's the perfect summary of all of those things. There's just, the future is so bright and the future is so exciting, and it's moving fast. And by the time, 20 years from now, I think it'll be really cool to look back on this time and see, holy cow, I was part of that, when it really started to take effect and really started to become a widely accepted manufacturing technology.
And so another really exciting and fast-moving organization is Women in 3D Printing. And last year you were announced as the new president for this year. Now, what are some of the things that you have on the table that you want the organization to focus on in 2022?
Well, we have a few things that we're trying to do. I mean, as you pointed out, it's been a very fast-growing group. It's a nonprofit, and just in the last 2 to 3 years specifically, it's really just exploded in terms of participation and chapters. We have now, I think it's 80 chapters in all 6 continents, in over 30 countries. And so it's very exciting. We have 5 big regional chairs. So we have, a regional chair alone, just even in Africa, to manage all of the chapters there. And it's just exploded so fast that I think one of the first things for myself that I want to get is just kind of get my arms around it and get a little bit more structure and alignment across the organization so we can continue to grow, but in a more sustainable manner. So, and some examples of that would be, again, we have these big regions globally, and we've had trouble connecting some of those regions because of time zones, the obvious stuff. And then again, just the speed of these new chapters popping up. So I want to start to get a lot of the regions a bit more interconnected. I think there's a lot of lessons learned from the APAC region that we can learn from Europe, from North America, from Africa. All of these regions have a lot of different experiences. And I think if we can start to connect them a bit better, we can start to make some more interesting interactions and advances and learn a lot more from each other. So that's one of the first things personally that I want to tackle. We're also looking a lot more into some more industry partnerships. So I think probably by the middle of this year, you'll be hearing some really interesting partnerships that we're looking into, again, to facilitate that expansion. Right now, we are all volunteers. So there's only so much that we can do. You know, we have a lot of volunteers. We have over 100 people that participate, but we still have, you know, day jobs. So we do need some more resources, and we do need some more partnerships to really start to take it to the next level.
Well, especially if you want to hit all 7 continents, you're going to start a chapter in Antarctica.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't think we're going to do anything in Antarctica for a while, but it would be pretty cool. But I don't know how many people would attend the events.
It is fascinating how global your organization is. And what are some of the things that have stood out to you about how one region of the world has done something that you think could be reapplied elsewhere?
Well, I think there's one of the examples that I give a lot is at last year's type conference in early 2021. We had this woman, and she was from Egypt, and she had a background in both 3D printing and biology and architecture. And what she was doing is she was studying how insects build their homes, so she could then replicate that on a human scale using 3D printing. And it was very specific to the region of, you know, the world where she lived. And it was just fascinating. And it was taking, you know, the natural resources of that region to build homes using 3D printing, things like that. You know, you're not going to see that probably in New York City's chapter, right? New York City is going to be focusing on different things. New York City's got a lot more focus on kind of more of the consumer goods side of things and more of the artist world. You know, and then you have, I'll have to think about some other examples, but you could see that, you know, obviously the different regions have a lot of different things to offer each other. One of the other things as well that I think is really important that we really want to focus on this year is Women in 3D Printing is about diversity, equity, and inclusion. So we have this DEI initiative that's going to be rolling out throughout the year. We're doing some test, I guess, beta projects right now. And to do that, we need to talk about more than just women. We need to talk about different ethnicities and different backgrounds. And obviously, we have the opportunity to do that with this global base of participants.
Excellent. And switching gears a little bit to Nexa 3D. Now, I know that the company's growing fast. It has some exciting new technology. What are you most psyched about when you think about Nexa 3D and its future?
Well, I mean, my interest almost pretty much across the board, and my background and experience has always been in using additive manufacturing for production scale printing. I've never really worked as much on the prototyping side of things. And honestly, my interest hasn't really fallen there as much as really getting AM adopted as a legitimate and accepted manufacturing technology. And that's what Nexa 3D is all about. Nexa 3D there's 3 different technologies right now, or 3 different print product lines. And I'm the general manager for the QLS printer, which is an SLS technology. But the one theme across all 3 of these printer technologies is that it's all about ultra-fast polymer 3D printing for production. And so that, to me, you know, the whole company is based on 3D printing for production. So that's probably the thing that attracts me the most.
Why do you think 3D printing has not been adopted for production as fast as some maybe would have predicted 5 or 6 years ago?
I think, you know, I have this conversation quite a bit with a lot of people, and the one common theme that I think comes up more often than not is really it's not about getting, you know, you look at the competition, right, within the industry. I don't view our competition in any company as the other 3D printer manufacturers. I don't think, you know, and I think service bureaus, I don't think that the competition is other service bureaus. I think the real competition is traditional manufacturing and getting people to think differently. And I think that has been the struggle, because it's really hard to get someone who spent their 20 years of their life studying how to design for injection molding and say, look, you need to now think differently. You need to design differently, and you need to think differently. That's the big hurdle. And I think we have struggled to some degree to get that transition made. And then again, it's just a basic skills shortage. When I first left university, 3D printing wasn't even, it wasn't even an option for a job. It wasn't something people talked about. So we're just now starting to get people coming out of universities that actually are getting educated in 3D printing and actually being able to kind of start to implement that. So I think it's a combination of those two things that has probably slowed it a bit more than it could have with other industries.
Well, hopefully it continues to grow, and with Nexa 3D, it'll grow even faster. Kristin, thank you so much for joining Ok Xoomer today.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
And thanks everyone for listening. This has been another episode of Ok Xoomer. We will be back in another few days with another one. Happy 2022 to everybody. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you next time.